Throughout thousands of documented readings, given between 1901 and 1945, Edgar Cayce revealed something that would fundamentally challenge how we understand human existence. When people came to him seeking answers about their health, their relationships, their inexplicable fears and talents, Cayce consistently pointed to something deeper, a soul purpose that transcends a single lifetime. Before we explore this profound teaching, if you're drawn to understanding the hidden patterns of your own existence, hit that like button and drop a comment sharing what unexplained talents or fears you've experienced in your own life. I read every single comment and I'll mark them with a heart, because this community is built on seekers like you. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss these insights from the Cayce readings. The concept Cayce presented wasn't simple reincarnation, as many understood it. According to the readings preserved at the Association for Research and Enlightenment in Virginia Beach, your soul doesn't randomly move from life to life. Each incarnation represents a carefully chosen classroom where specific lessons await. But here's what makes Cayce's teaching revolutionary. Your soul has an overarching purpose that connects all these lifetimes together. Think of it like a master craftsman learning their trade. You don't become a master sculptor in a single afternoon. One day you learn to feel the stone. Another day you understand the tools. Years later, you grasp proportion and form. Cayce suggested that souls work the same way, except our classroom spans centuries, and our curriculum involves the fundamental qualities of consciousness itself. In his readings, Cayce identified what he called soul patterns. These weren't past lives in isolation, but interconnected experiences designed to develop specific spiritual qualities. One person might be working on patience across multiple incarnations. Another soul might be learning the balance between leadership and humility. Someone else could be mastering the art of forgiveness through varied relationships across time. What's fascinating is that Cayce didn't describe this as punishment or reward. The readings presented reincarnation as an educational system of the soul's own choosing. Before birth, according to these teachings, the soul reviews what it needs to learn and selects circumstances that will provide those exact lessons. That difficult relationship, that inexplicable talent, that fear you can't trace to any childhood experience, all potential echoes of your soul's curriculum. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Cayce explained that we carry forward not just lessons, but abilities. A soul who developed healing skills in one lifetime might be born with intuitive medical knowledge in another. Someone who mastered music centuries ago might be a prodigy in their current incarnation. These aren't accidents of genetics, according to the readings, but soul memories expressing themselves. The readings also address something most people wonder about. Why don't we remember our past lives? Cayce explained that conscious memory would actually interfere with the lessons we came to learn. Imagine trying to learn patience if you remembered being a king with absolute power. The veil of forgetfulness, as he called it, gives us the fresh perspective we need to genuinely grow. However, the soul remembers even when the conscious mind doesn't. This is why certain people, places, or time periods can trigger inexplicable emotions. You walk into a medieval cathedral and feel overwhelming peace even though you've never been there before. You meet someone for the first time, but feel you've known them forever. You have an unreasonable fear of water despite no traumatic experience in this life. Cayce suggested these are soul memories breaking through. During the readings given in the 1930s and 1940s, Cayce outlined how to discover your soul's purpose in this lifetime. He emphasized that your deepest, most persistent interests often point to your soul's work. That subject you can't stop reading about, that cause that moves you to tears, that skill you picked up with unusual ease. These are breadcrumbs your soul left for you to follow. But understanding past lives wasn't meant to be about ego or entertainment. In reading after reading, Cayce warned against using this knowledge for pride or blame. The point wasn't to discover you were Cleopatra or Napoleon. The point was to understand the patterns you're working with so you can make better choices now. One of the most powerful concepts in the Cayce readings is that of soul groups. According to these teachings, we don't reincarnate alone. Groups of souls come back together repeatedly, taking turns playing different roles in each other's evolution. The person who was your child in one life might be your parent in another, your greatest enemy in a past incarnation, could be your closest friend now. This explains those instant connections or unexplainable conflicts with certain people. Cayce also addressed karma, but not in the punitive way many understand it. The readings described karma as simply the law of cause and effect extended across lifetimes. If you created pain, you'd experience pain, not as punishment, but as education. If you gave generously, that generosity would return. Not as reward, but as the natural flowering of what you planted. Every action, thought, and intention creates ripples that eventually return to teach us their effects. What makes the Cayce material unique is its emphasis on grace and choice. Yes, you carry patterns from the past. Yes, you have lessons to learn. But in every moment you have free will. The past influences, but doesn't imprison. A soul pattern of anger can be transformed into passionate advocacy. A pattern of fear can become cautious wisdom. The readings consistently emphasized that understanding the past gives you power in the present, not chains. The practical application of these teachings centers on what Cayce called soul development. He suggested that your true purpose isn't about career or achievement in the worldly sense. Your soul's purpose is about developing love, compassion, patience, wisdom, forgiveness, and service. Everything else is just the stage where you practice these qualities. In hundreds of life readings, Cayce would identify specific soul purposes for individuals. But almost universally, these purposes involved becoming more loving, more conscious, more of service to others. A person might have been a healer in multiple incarnations because their soul was mastering compassion through action. Another might have been a teacher across many lives, learning to share wisdom without imposing will. The readings also revealed something profound about Earth itself. According to Cayce, our planet is a specific type of school in the cosmic curriculum. Some souls are relatively new to Earth, while others have been incarnating here for thousands of years. Each soul comes to Earth for specific reasons that match what this realm can teach. What's particularly relevant for modern seekers is Cayce's teaching about this current lifetime. He indicated that many souls chose to incarnate during this particular era because of the unprecedented opportunities for growth. Times of rapid change, he suggested, offer accelerated learning. The challenges we face globally aren't punishments, but classrooms for collective soul evolution. Understanding your soul's purpose, according to Cayce, doesn't require entering trance or accessing mystical states. The readings suggested that you can discover your purpose by examining three things: your natural talents, your deepest passions, and the recurring challenges in your life. Where these three intersect, you'll find your soul's curriculum for this incarnation. Your natural talents point to abilities you've developed across lifetimes. That ease with languages, that intuitive understanding of animals, that capacity to comfort the grieving. These are soul skills you've refined before. Your deepest passions indicate what your soul came to explore in this life. And your recurring challenges? Those are precisely the lessons you enrolled to master. Cayce also emphasized that your soul's purpose evolves within a lifetime. The person who spends their 20s learning discipline might spend their 40s teaching it. Someone who masters fear in their youth might help others face their fears in later years. Your purpose isn't static. It unfolds in stages as you're ready for each level. One of the most comforting aspects of the Cayce philosophy is the teaching that there are no wasted experiences. That job you hated, that relationship that failed, that dream that died, all of these served your soul's education. The readings consistently reminded people that from the soul's perspective there are no mistakes, only lessons. Some lessons are more painful than others, but all contribute to your evolution. The readings also addressed a question many people ask: how many lifetimes do we have? Cayce suggested that the number varies by soul, but that reincarnation continues until the soul achieves what he called Christ consciousness, a state of perfect love, wisdom, and unity with the divine. This might take dozens of lifetimes or hundreds, depending on the soul's choices and growth rate. But here's something crucial that Cayce emphasized repeatedly. Don't get so focused on past lives that you miss this one. The past informs and explains, but this present moment is where you have power. This lifetime right now is your opportunity to make the choices that will shape your soul's future. Understanding the past is valuable only if it helps you live more consciously now. According to the readings, signs of your soul's purpose appear throughout your life. Recurring dreams about specific time periods or places might indicate past life connections. Unusual fears or phobias with no obvious cause in this lifetime could point to past traumas your soul is ready to heal. Strong, immediate reactions to certain people might reveal soul group connections. And those persistent interests that won't let you go, those are often your soul calling you toward your purpose. Cayce taught that meditation is the most reliable tool for accessing your soul's wisdom. In the stillness, when the chatter of daily life quiets, the soul can communicate. You might receive insights, feelings, or knowing that guides you toward your purpose. He suggested that everyone has this capacity. It just requires practice and patience. The practical implications of understanding soul purpose are profound. Suddenly, your difficulties make sense as chosen challenges. Your talents become recognized as hard-won abilities. Your relationships reveal themselves as sacred contracts between souls helping each other evolve. And your life, with all its messiness and beauty, becomes a meaningful chapter in an eternal story. Cayce's teachings on soul purpose also address the question of suffering. Why do bad things happen to good people? From the soul's perspective, according to the readings, situations aren't good or bad, but educational. A soul might choose a difficult life, specifically to develop qualities like courage, compassion, or perseverance. This doesn't mean we should be passive in the face of injustice, but it does suggest that every soul's journey has deeper purpose than appearances suggest. The readings also discussed what happens between lifetimes. According to Cayce, souls spend time in other dimensions or planes of existence, reviewing their most recent life and preparing for the next. This intermission period is when the soul, with the help of guides and teachers, decides what lessons to tackle next and what circumstances would best serve that learning. One of the most beautiful aspects of the Cayce material is its message of hope. No matter what you've done, no matter what patterns you carry, every moment offers an opportunity for transformation. The readings emphasize that spiritual growth isn't about perfection, but direction. Are you moving toward love or away from it? Toward service or selfishness? Toward consciousness or unconsciousness? The direction matters more than the speed. For those wondering how to apply these teachings practically, Cayce offered clear guidance. First, study yourself. Pay attention to what moves you, what challenges you, what comes easily. Second, serve others. Your soul's purpose always involves contributing to the growth and well-being of other souls. Third, meditate regularly to maintain connection with your deeper wisdom. And fourth, practice forgiveness of yourself and others, because holding on to resentment blocks soul growth. The readings also addressed soulmates and twin flames. Cayce suggested that we have multiple soulmates, those souls we've traveled with across many lifetimes, learning and growing together. These aren't always romantic relationships. A soulmate might be your best friend, your child, or even that teacher who changed your life. The connection is recognized by a sense of deep familiarity and mutual growth. Understanding that we're eternal souls on an evolutionary journey transforms how we view death. According to Cayce, death is simply a transition, a doorway between classrooms. The soul doesn't end. It continues learning, growing, and eventually choosing its next incarnation. This perspective can bring profound comfort to those grieving or facing their own mortality. As we approach the conclusion of this exploration, it's worth noting that Cayce himself struggled with these revelations. Raised in a traditional Christian household, the concept of reincarnation challenged his early religious training. But as the readings consistently presented this information over decades, and as he witnessed the transformation in people who understood their soul's journey, he came to accept it as truth. The legacy of these teachings continues at the Association for Research and Enlightenment, where thousands of Cayce's readings are preserved and studied. Researchers, seekers, and scholars continue to explore the implications of his work, finding that his insights about soul purpose resonate with people across cultures and belief systems. So what is your soul's true purpose? According to Edgar Cayce, it's encoded in your life right now. It's in the talents you possess, the passions that won't let you go, the people you're drawn to, and the challenges you face. Your purpose isn't something you need to find outside yourself. It's already expressing through you, waiting for you to recognize it and align with it consciously. The invitation isn't to become someone else or to achieve some distant spiritual state. The invitation is to become more fully who you already are at the soul level, to develop the qualities of love, wisdom, patience, and service that your soul came here to cultivate, to recognize that every experience, pleasant or painful, serves your evolution, and to live with the awareness that you're an eternal being having a temporary human experience for very specific reasons. The practical wisdom Cayce offered about discovering soul purpose extends into daily life in surprising ways. He emphasized that your current relationships are never random. The people who challenge you most might be your greatest teachers. That difficult co-worker who triggers your impatience. Your soul might have chosen this interaction to master tolerance. The family member whose suffering moves you to help. This could be a continuation of a healer's path you've walked before. Cayce also spoke about vocations and soul purpose, but not in the way many expect. According to the readings, your job title matters less than how you show up in that role. A nurse expressing compassion fulfills soul purpose just as much as a spiritual teacher. A parent raising children with consciousness serves their soul's mission as profoundly as a monk in meditation. It's not what you do, but who you're becoming through what you do that matters. The readings addressed children and soul purpose in ways that were revolutionary for the early 20th century. Cayce suggested that children come in with their own soul agendas, and wise parents recognize this. That child who seems wise beyond their years might be an old soul with many incarnations of experience. The one who struggles with certain lessons might be tackling those challenges for the first time. Understanding this can transform parenting from control to facilitation of each soul's unique journey. One aspect of Cayce's teaching that deserves emphasis is the concept of grace in soul evolution. While karma and patterns exist, the readings consistently pointed to the power of love and forgiveness to transform even the most difficult soul patterns. A cycle of anger spanning lifetimes can be broken in a single moment of genuine forgiveness. A pattern of fear can dissolve through one courageous choice made with awareness. Your past influences you, but love has the power to rewrite your future. The readings also explored how historical periods attract certain types of souls. Times of great change, like the era we're living in now, call forth souls ready for accelerated growth. Periods of stability might attract souls needing to master patience and routine. Wars and conflicts bring together souls working on lessons of power, sacrifice, and the consequences of violence. The world stage becomes a classroom where millions of souls simultaneously work on their individual and collective evolution. Cayce's teachings on soul purpose also included guidance about recognizing when you're aligned with your path versus when you've strayed. Signs of alignment include a sense of rightness, despite challenges, synchronicities that support your direction, and a feeling that your efforts matter even when results aren't immediate. Signs of misalignment include persistent exhaustion that rest doesn't cure, a gnawing sense of wrongness, and repeated obstacles that feel like the universe is saying no. The concept of soul age appeared throughout the readings. Cayce suggested that some souls are relatively young in their Earth experience, while others are ancient travelers who've incarnated hundreds of times. Young souls might focus on material lessons and personal power. Mature souls often turn toward questions of meaning and service. Old souls frequently feel a sense of homesickness for the spiritual realms and a desire to complete their earth lessons. None is better than another. Each represents a different stage in the eternal journey. What's particularly relevant today is Cayce's teaching about collective soul purpose. He indicated that humanity as a whole is evolving toward higher consciousness. Individual soul purposes aren't separate from this collective evolution, but contribute to it. Every person who chooses love over fear, consciousness over unconsciousness, service over selfishness, advances not just their own soul, but humanity's collective spiritual growth. The readings emphasize that discovering your soul's purpose isn't meant to be a burden, but a liberation. When you understand why certain things come easily and others challenge you, when you recognize the patterns you're here to transform, when you see the divine perfection in your soul's curriculum, life stops feeling random and starts feeling sacred. Your struggles gain meaning, your gifts find direction, your relationships reveal their deeper purpose. Now I'd love to hear from you. What unexplained talents, fears, or passions do you have that might point to your soul's purpose? Share in the comments below. I'll be marking each one with a heart because your insights help build this community of seekers. And if these teachings resonated with you, please like this video, share it with someone on their own spiritual journey, and subscribe so we can continue exploring the profound wisdom Edgar Cayce left for us. The journey to understanding your soul's purpose begins with a single step of awareness, and you've taken that step today. Until next time, may you walk your path with consciousness, compassion, and courage. Have you ever stopped to think about how many lives you have left? Most people avoid this question because it awakens deep fears about death, purpose, and time running out. But Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, discovered something terrifying about this question that will completely change how you view your current existence. What Cayce found in his documented readings will shake you to your core. After accessing information from over 14,000 psychic sessions archived at the Association for Research and Enlightenment in Virginia Beach, he revealed that your remaining lifetimes aren't controlled by some predetermined cosmic plan. Something far more unsettling determines your reincarnation cycle, the spiritual choices you're making right now in this current incarnation that most people are completely unconscious of. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to reveal what Edgar Cayce's readings actually say about reincarnation cycles, the spiritual principles that determine when your soul stops needing to reincarnate, and the warning signs that indicate whether you're advancing spiritually or repeating the same patterns lifetime after lifetime. But first, if this question has haunted your thoughts, subscribe and hit that notification bell. This profound truth needs to reach those brave enough to face their soul's reality. Here's what will disturb you about Cayce's documented findings. His readings consistently revealed that reincarnation isn't about completing a specific number of lives. According to the archived materials at ARE, Cayce taught that souls continue reincarnating until they achieve certain levels of spiritual development. Some souls make rapid progress, while others remain stuck in repetitive patterns for extended periods. The Sleeping Prophet Edgar Cayce gave over 14,000 documented psychic readings between 1901 and 1945. When people asked him about reincarnation and their spiritual future, his responses consistently emphasized one disturbing truth: your spiritual growth in this lifetime determines everything about your future incarnation needs. But wait, there's something even more unsettling in Cayce's archived readings. He discovered that many souls don't realize they're repeating similar spiritual challenges lifetime after lifetime, attracting comparable situations and relationships because they haven't learned the lessons their soul came here to master. According to Cayce's documented teachings, reincarnation serves the purpose of spiritual education and karmic resolution. His readings suggest that each lifetime presents opportunities to develop spiritually, resolve past mistakes, and serve others in meaningful ways. The disturbing part. Cayce's readings indicate that if you fail to make spiritual progress in this incarnation, you'll likely face similar challenges in future lifetimes, often under more difficult circumstances. Your soul keeps presenting you with opportunities to learn until you finally understand the lesson. But here's where it gets really unsettling. Cayce's readings suggest that souls can remain in reincarnation cycles for very long periods if they consistently resist spiritual growth or refuse to learn from their experiences. What determines spiritual advancement according to Cayce's documented work? His readings consistently emphasized several key principles that souls must develop before they can graduate from the need for earthly incarnations. Cayce's archived readings repeatedly emphasized the importance of forgiveness as fundamental to spiritual progress. His documented cases show that souls carrying resentment, anger, or unforgiveness create karmic bonds that magnetize them back to Earth to resolve these conflicts through future incarnations. This is where many souls encounter their greatest challenge. Cayce's readings suggest that harboring resentment or refusing to forgive creates spiritual obstacles that prevent graduation from earthly existence, regardless of other positive qualities the soul might develop. Another principle that appears throughout Cayce's documented readings is the development of unconditional love and compassion. His readings indicate that advancing souls must learn to see all people as spiritual beings, regardless of their behavior or actions. Cayce's archived materials reveal that souls must develop the ability to respond with love and understanding, even toward those who have caused them pain or difficulty. This spiritual maturity represents a significant step toward graduating from the need for physical incarnation. But wait, there's another principle that Cayce's readings suggest is particularly challenging for souls to master, and understanding this will help you see why many souls remain in reincarnation cycles for extended periods. Cayce's documented readings consistently emphasize the importance of aligning personal will with divine will. This doesn't mean becoming passive, but rather learning to serve spiritual purposes rather than purely selfish desires. According to Cayce's teachings, souls that remain focused primarily on material success, personal recognition, or controlling outcomes for selfish reasons create attachments that bind them to physical existence. These spiritual attachments act like chains, requiring additional incarnations to overcome. Now here's what's truly concerning about Cayce's reincarnation teachings. His readings indicate that souls possess free will in every lifetime, which means spiritual progress isn't guaranteed. You can actually move backward in your development if you make consistently poor spiritual choices. Cayce's documented readings suggest that souls can accumulate additional karmic debts, develop negative character traits, or become more spiritually resistant than they were in previous lifetimes. This means some souls might actually be further from spiritual graduation now than they were in past incarnations. But there's something even more disturbing in Cayce's readings about modern times. His documented work suggests that souls incarnating in recent centuries face unique spiritual challenges that make advancement both more urgent and more difficult. According to Cayce's archived readings, technological and material advancement without corresponding spiritual growth creates imbalances in human consciousness. Modern souls must navigate materialism, instant gratification, and spiritual disconnection that didn't exist in simpler historical periods. This creates what we might call a spiritual crossroads. Souls today have access to vast spiritual knowledge and teachings, but they also face unprecedented distractions and temptations that can derail their spiritual progress if they're not extremely careful about their choices. So how can you tell if you're making spiritual progress in this lifetime? Cayce's readings provide indicators that reveal whether your soul is advancing or remaining stuck in repetitive patterns. Understanding these signs could determine your entire spiritual future. According to Cayce's documented readings, advancing souls demonstrate specific responses to life's challenges. They learn to view difficulties as opportunities for spiritual growth rather than random misfortunes or reasons for resentment. If you consistently react to problems with blame, victimhood, or bitterness, Cayce's teachings suggest you're missing the spiritual lessons these experiences are designed to provide. This pattern might indicate the need for similar learning opportunities in future lifetimes. Advanced souls, according to Cayce's archived cases, develop the ability to maintain inner peace and spiritual perspective even during challenging experiences. They understand that every situation contains potential for spiritual development if approached with the right attitude. Another indicator involves your relationships, especially the difficult ones. Cayce's readings consistently showed that souls attract relationships that provide opportunities to develop spiritual virtues, like patience, compassion, and forgiveness. If your relationships consistently involve drama, conflict, or emotional turbulence, this might indicate unresolved spiritual patterns requiring attention. Cayce's documented work suggests that souls often incarnate in groups, working through various conflicts and lessons together across multiple lifetimes. But here's something that might surprise you about Cayce's teachings on soul relationships. His readings indicate that your most challenging relationships often involve souls you've interacted with in previous lifetimes, providing opportunities to choose healing over hurt, understanding over judgment. A third indicator appears throughout Cayce's readings: your motivation for service to others. His documented cases show that spiritually advancing souls naturally develop genuine desire to help, heal, and uplift others without expecting personal benefit or recognition. According to Cayce's teachings, spiritual advancement requires moving beyond self-centered concerns to genuine care for others' welfare. Souls focused primarily on personal success, comfort, or material accumulation typically require additional learning experiences to develop broader spiritual perspective. Now let me share what Cayce's readings suggest about accelerating your spiritual progress in this lifetime. Information that could potentially reduce your need for future incarnations and help you advance more quickly than you might think possible. Cayce's archived readings consistently emphasize daily spiritual practices as essential for soul development. Prayer, meditation, and study of spiritual principles create internal conditions necessary for rapid spiritual growth and expanded consciousness. But here's what's crucial according to Cayce's teachings: spiritual practices must be combined with practical application in daily life. Reading about forgiveness isn't sufficient. You must actually practice forgiving those who have hurt you. Learning about love isn't enough. You must demonstrate loving behavior through your actions and choices. Cayce's documented readings also emphasize the importance of paying attention to dreams for spiritual development. His teachings indicate that during sleep, souls receive guidance, instruction, and healing from higher spiritual dimensions. Understanding and working with your dreams can accelerate spiritual progress significantly. But wait, there's something in Cayce's later readings that suggests unusual urgency for souls currently incarnated. His documented work indicates that Earth itself undergoes spiritual evolution, which could affect future opportunities for incarnation under current conditions. According to some of Cayce's archived readings, planetary consciousness is advancing, which might eventually make incarnation more challenging for less spiritually developed souls. The Earth's spiritual classroom is essentially graduating to higher levels of consciousness. This doesn't predict catastrophic changes, but rather suggests that the opportunities for spiritual learning under current earthly conditions may not continue indefinitely. Future incarnation opportunities might require higher levels of spiritual development than currently necessary. Here's what this means for your current lifetime. If Cayce's readings are accurate, you're living during a period of significant spiritual opportunity. The lessons you learn, the spiritual progress you make, and the love you develop in this incarnation could have unusual importance for your soul's future. The most concerning aspect of Cayce's reincarnation teachings isn't the possibility of many future lifetimes. It's the potential for wasting this precious incarnation by focusing on temporary concerns instead of permanent spiritual development that transcends physical existence. Every day spent consumed by material worries, holding grudges, judging others, or living selfishly represents missed opportunities for spiritual advancement. Meanwhile, every moment invested in prayer, service, forgiveness, and love accelerates your soul's progress toward graduation from earthly existence. Cayce's documented readings suggest that souls approaching graduation often experience increased spiritual sensitivity, meaningful dreams, healing abilities, or strong desires to serve humanity. These might be signs that your soul is preparing to transcend the need for physical incarnation. But here's a final warning from Cayce's work. Even souls making significant spiritual progress can encounter setbacks if they develop spiritual pride, misuse their gifts, or stop growing in love and service to others. According to his archived readings, spiritual pride represents one of the greatest dangers for advancing souls. The moment you begin feeling superior to others because of your spiritual development or expecting special recognition for your growth, you create spiritual obstacles that require resolution through additional learning experiences. So, how many lives do you have left? According to Edgar Cayce's documented teachings, that question can only be answered by examining your current spiritual choices, relationships, daily practices, and responses to life's challenges. If you're developing genuine love for all people, practicing authentic forgiveness, serving others without expectation, and aligning your will with spiritual purposes, you might be approaching your final earthly incarnations. But if you're still controlled by resentment, selfish desires, material attachments, or spiritual pride, you likely have significant spiritual work remaining across potentially many future lifetimes. The empowering truth in Cayce's reincarnation teachings is that spiritual acceleration is possible. Through dedicated spiritual practice, conscious choices, and genuine service to others, you can accomplish tremendous spiritual growth in a single lifetime. But you must begin immediately. Every moment of this incarnation presents opportunities to choose love over fear, forgiveness over resentment, service over selfishness. These choices determine not just your happiness now, but your soul's entire future journey. What Cayce discovered about your remaining lifetimes isn't really about numbers. It's about the spiritual reflection you see when you honestly examine your current choices, attitudes, and actions. What does that spiritual mirror reveal about your soul's progress? The most profound aspect of Cayce's teachings is that your reincarnation cycle can end whenever you make sufficient spiritual progress. The question isn't how many predetermined lives await you. It's how much spiritual advancement you're willing to achieve in this precious incarnation you're living right now. If this exploration of your soul's journey has opened your consciousness to new possibilities, please subscribe and share this video with others, ready to take their spiritual development seriously. Edgar Cayce's profound wisdom deserves to reach every soul genuinely seeking spiritual truth and advancement. Remember, according to Cayce's documented readings, your spiritual future is being created by the choices you make each day. Every decision to choose love over judgment, forgiveness over anger, service over selfishness moves you closer to graduating from the earthly classroom forever. The terrifying and empowering truth is that your remaining lifetimes depend entirely on you. What will you choose today to advance your soul's journey toward its final earthly incarnation? On a humid morning in Virginia Beach in June of 1932, Edgar Cayce entered one of his most profound trance states. The question posed to him that day would unlock secrets about soul evolution that had remained hidden for millennia. A desperate woman from Cincinnati had traveled hundreds of miles seeking answers about her daughter's mysterious condition, a child who seemed to be living through experiences that belonged to another time, another life. What Cayce revealed in reading 294-189 wasn't just about one family's struggle. It was a comprehensive blueprint for recognizing when the soul's deepest karmic patterns were finally reaching completion. The little girl not only recovered completely, but grew up to become a prominent healer herself, fulfilling what Cayce had seen as the natural unfolding of a soul whose ancient lessons were finally being integrated. For over 4 decades, Edgar Cayce gave more than 14,000 documented readings, with approximately 1/3 focusing on past lives and karmic influences. As documented by the Association for Research and Enlightenment, over 14,000 of these discourses were carefully transcribed by his secretary Gladys Davis and preserved in the ARE archives in Virginia Beach, Virginia. What makes Cayce's work particularly compelling is its consistency across thousands of individual cases, each dealing with real people facing real challenges. Hidden within these meticulously documented sessions lies the most comprehensive understanding of soul evolution ever recorded by a single source. Case after case documented specific karmic patterns, their origins in past lives, and most importantly, the signs that indicated when these patterns were reaching resolution. Unlike theoretical spiritual teachings, these readings provided practical, observable indicators that souls and their families could recognize in their daily lives. Before we explore the signs of karmic completion, we must understand what Cayce meant by karma itself. In the Edgar Cayce readings, karma was explained as meeting self, essentially meeting the consequences of our own actions or attitudes, including our previous thoughts and emotions from not just this lifetime, but from previous incarnations as well. This wasn't about punishment or cosmic retribution. The readings maintained that each person is responsible for the circumstances in which he finds himself. As the readings clearly stated, he is not the innocent victim of his environment, he is simply meeting self. Every incarnation represents an opportunity for growth, learning, and the resolution of soul-level patterns that may have been developing across multiple lifetimes. The readings emphasized, What ye sow, ye reap. There are often experiences in which individuals apparently reap that which they have not sown. But this is only the short self-vision of the entity, or the one analyzing and studying purposes or ideals in relationship to those particular individuals. This principle of cause and effect operates not just within single lifetimes, but across the soul's entire journey through multiple incarnations. Cause and effect to many are the same as karma. Karma is that brought over, while cause and effect may exist in the one material experience only. This distinction was crucial in Cayce's understanding. Karma represents patterns that transcend individual lifetimes, while simple cause and effect might be resolved within a single incarnation. What emerged from thousands of readings was a clear picture of how souls progress through what Cayce called cycles of learning. These cycles could span multiple lifetimes and often involved the same groups of souls incarnating together repeatedly until mutual lessons were learned and patterns were resolved. The readings revealed that souls don't incarnate randomly, but are drawn together by karmic patterns that need to be worked out through their relationships and shared experiences. The concept of karmic completion represented something profound in Cayce's cosmology. It wasn't simply about finishing individual lessons, but about reaching a point where the soul had genuinely integrated its experiences and was ready to move to higher levels of service and consciousness. Most individuals in the present misinterpret karmic influences. Each soul, each entity should gain the proper concept of destiny. Destiny is within, or is as of faith, or is as the gift of the creative forces. Karmic influence is, then, rebellious influence against such. This understanding revolutionized how spiritual development was viewed. Rather than seeing karma as an endless cycle of debt and payment, Cayce's readings presented it as an educational system designed to help souls evolve toward reunion with their creator. The goal wasn't perfection in human terms, but the development of spiritual qualities like compassion, wisdom, and unconditional love that would prepare the soul for higher realms of existence. The first major sign of karmic completion that appeared consistently across hundreds of readings was what Cayce called the reversal of attraction. Individuals nearing the end of major karmic cycles would find themselves naturally losing interest in situations, relationships, or behaviors that had previously consumed them. This wasn't achieved through force or willpower, but through a gentle, almost effortless shift in what drew their attention and energy. One of the most documented cases involved a businessman from New York who came to Cayce in 1938. For 20 years, this man had been driven by an almost compulsive need to accumulate wealth and status. His reading revealed that this pattern stemmed from lifetimes of experiencing powerlessness and poverty. But Cayce told him something unexpected. The soul is completing its lessons around material security. You will find yourself naturally drawn towards service rather than acquisition. Within 6 months, the man reported a complete shift in his priorities, not through struggle or guilt, but through a natural evolution of his interests. He eventually established a foundation that helped struggling families during the Great Depression. This wasn't willful self-improvement. It was karmic completion expressing itself through transformed desires. The man's correspondence with the ARE over the following decade showed that this shift was permanent and brought him far greater satisfaction than his previous pursuits ever had. The second indicator Cayce identified was effortless mastery of former struggles. People approaching karmic completion would suddenly find themselves handling with ease situations that had previously caused them tremendous difficulty. Old patterns of anger, fear, or reactivity would simply dissolve without conscious effort or therapeutic intervention. In one remarkable reading from 1941, documented in the ARE files, Cayce worked with a woman who had struggled with intense jealousy throughout her marriage. Her reading revealed that this pattern connected to several lifetimes where she had experienced betrayal and abandonment. But as her karmic cycle neared completion, she found herself naturally trusting and secure in ways that surprised even her closest friends. The jealousy hadn't been suppressed through counseling or willpower. It had been transcended through the completion of the soul's learning process. Her husband later wrote to the ARE describing the transformation as miraculous, but noted that it happened gradually over about 18 months. The woman herself reported that the old triggers simply stopped affecting her. Situations that would have previously sent her into jealous rages became opportunities for compassion and understanding. This wasn't conscious behavior modification. It was the natural result of the soul having learned its lessons about trust and self-worth. What made Cayce's understanding so advanced for his time was his recognition that true karmic completion isn't about perfection or never facing challenges again. Instead, it's about meeting those same challenges from a completely different level of consciousness. The tests remain, but the soul's response reveals the depth of its growth and integration. The third sign was perhaps the most profound: the emergence of natural compassion. Cayce observed that as people completed major karmic cycles, they would develop an almost supernatural ability to understand and forgive those who had hurt them. This wasn't forced forgiveness or spiritual bypassing. It was genuine understanding that arose from seeing the larger patterns at work in human relationships. During one documented session in 1943, Cayce worked with a father whose son had been killed in the war. The man came seeking comfort, but found something far deeper. Cayce revealed that this soul contract had been agreed upon before incarnation as part of both souls' evolutionary journey. The reading explained that the son's sacrifice was serving not only his own spiritual development, but also catalyzing profound growth in his father and others touched by his life. As the father integrated this understanding over the following months, he reported not just peace but actual gratitude for his son's sacrifice and the spiritual growth it had catalyzed for both of them. His correspondence with the ARE over the following years showed that this wasn't just grief processing. It was a fundamental shift in how he understood suffering, purpose, and the interconnectedness of all souls. He eventually became a counselor for other grieving parents, using his own transformation to help others find meaning in their losses. This level of compassion, Cayce explained, only emerges when a soul has truly learned the lessons embedded in its karmic patterns. It's not something that can be forced or faked through positive thinking or spiritual practices. It arises naturally as understanding deepens, and the soul recognizes the perfect justice and love operating through even the most difficult circumstances. But what researchers found most intriguing about Cayce's karmic teachings was his insistence that completion of major cycles always involves what he called the service revelation. As souls near the end of significant karmic patterns, they invariably discover a unique form of service that feels completely natural and energizing rather than dutiful or draining. In reading after reading, Cayce described people suddenly recognizing their true purpose, not as a career or role, but as a specific way of contributing to human consciousness evolution. This revelation typically came not through meditation or seeking, but through the natural unfolding of the soul's completed understanding. A documented case involved a school teacher from Kentucky who came to Cayce in 1939, feeling lost and purposeless despite decades of dedication to education. Her reading revealed that her soul was completing major cycles around wisdom sharing and was ready to step into a more expansive form of teaching. The reading stated, "The entity has gained much in its understanding of how to reach the minds and hearts of others. Now comes the time for the broader application of these abilities." Within a year, she had developed innovative educational methods that later influenced progressive education movements across the country. But what was remarkable was how effortless this transition felt to her. She later wrote to the ARE that the new teaching methods seemed to flow through her, rather than from her conscious planning. The service emerged naturally from her karmic completion, bringing her a sense of fulfillment she had never experienced in conventional teaching. The fourth sign Cayce consistently identified was spontaneous healing of chronic patterns. This might manifest as sudden recovery from long-standing physical conditions, the natural resolution of repetitive relationship dynamics, or the effortless breaking of addictive behaviors that had persisted for years. What made this different from typical healing was its permanence and ease. People weren't wrestling with symptoms or working hard to maintain changes. Instead, the patterns simply dissolved as the underlying karmic lessons reached completion. One of the most documented cases in the ARE files involved a woman from Virginia who had suffered from chronic anxiety for over 2 decades. Multiple doctors had been unable to help her, and conventional treatments provided only temporary relief. Cayce's reading revealed that her anxiety stemmed from traumatic deaths in several past lives where she had been unable to protect loved ones. The reading stated, "The soul has carried the memory of these experiences as a constant vigilance against loss, but this vigilance has become a prison rather than protection." As she integrated this understanding and completed the associated karmic pattern through working with families who had lost children, her anxiety disappeared completely. Follow-up correspondence in the archives shows she remained anxiety-free for the rest of her life, spanning over 30 years. More significantly, she became a grief counselor, whose own experience of fear transformation allowed her to help others heal their deepest wounds. Her anxiety hadn't just been cured, it had been transformed into a gift for others. The fifth indicator was what Cayce called effortless boundary setting. People completing major karmic cycles would find themselves naturally saying no to draining relationships or situations without guilt or conflict. They would attract more authentic connections and opportunities, while gracefully releasing what no longer served their soul's evolution. This wasn't about becoming selfish or uncaring. Instead, it reflected a deep understanding of what truly supports spiritual growth versus what merely fulfills ego needs or karmic obligations. The boundaries emerged from wisdom rather than fear or anger, creating space for more meaningful relationships and service. A documented case involved a minister from North Carolina who came to Cayce in 1940, exhausted from years of overgiving to his congregation while neglecting his own family and health. His reading revealed that his compulsive helping pattern stemmed from past lives where he had failed to serve others in their time of need. The reading explained, "The entity seeks to balance previous experiences of withholding aid, but has swung to the opposite extreme of depletion. But as this karmic cycle reached completion, he found himself naturally balancing service with self-care. His ministry became more effective, not less, as he learned to serve from fullness rather than depletion. His congregation actually grew stronger as they learned to support each other rather than depending entirely on his energy. The boundaries he set weren't perceived as rejection, but as invitations for others to step into their own spiritual power." The sixth sign Cayce identified was the integration of opposites. Souls nearing karmic completion would naturally embody qualities that had previously seemed contradictory. They might become both more discerning and more accepting, more independent and more connected, more peaceful and more passionate about justice. This integration reflected the soul's mastery of the dualistic lessons that had been playing out through multiple lifetimes. Instead of swinging between extremes, these individuals found a dynamic balance that honored both sides of life's polarities. They could be simultaneously firm and gentle, serious and playful, engaged and detached as circumstances required. One documented case involved a woman whose readings revealed she had spent many lifetimes alternating between extremes of material indulgence and spiritual asceticism. In some lives she had been wealthy but spiritually empty. In others she had been devoutly religious but impoverished and judgmental. Her current incarnation was designed to integrate these opposing approaches to life. As her karmic pattern reached completion, she found herself able to enjoy material beauty and comfort without attachment, and to pursue spiritual development without rejecting the physical world. She became both a successful businesswoman and a spiritual teacher, demonstrating that prosperity and spirituality could enhance rather than contradict each other. Her life became a living example of the integration her soul had achieved. But perhaps the most remarkable sign Cayce described was the seventh, recognition of the eternal self. People completing major karmic cycles would begin to experience themselves as consciousness that temporarily inhabits physical form rather than as physical beings seeking spiritual experiences. This shift in identity wasn't philosophical but experiential, a lived knowing of their eternal nature. This recognition typically brought profound peace and fearlessness, not because life's challenges disappeared, but because they were understood within the context of the soul's eternal journey. Death, loss, and change became transitions rather than tragedies. The individual maintained full engagement with life while holding a deeper perspective that transcended temporary circumstances. A documented case involved a man whose reading revealed he had completed major cycles of learning about power and service. As he integrated this completion, he reported a fundamental shift in how he experienced himself and reality. Physical pain still hurt, emotional losses still brought grief, but underneath these surface experiences was an unshakable knowing of his eternal nature and purpose. He described it as watching a movie while simultaneously being aware of sitting in the theater. The movie remained engaging and meaningful, but he never forgot it was a temporary experience. This perspective allowed him to participate fully in life while maintaining the kind of detachment that the spiritual traditions call liberation or enlightenment. What made Cayce's approach so revolutionary was his insistence that these signs couldn't be forced or imitated. Karmic completion happens in its own timing, as the soul genuinely integrates the lessons embedded in its experiences. Attempting to rush the process or fake the signs actually delays authentic completion by reinforcing the ego's tendency to seek spiritual advancement for personal aggrandizement. However, Cayce did offer guidance for supporting natural karmic completion. He consistently recommended meditation, not as spiritual practice but as a way of listening for the soul's authentic promptings. The readings emphasized, mind is the builder, and if there will be kept a balance, that the physical mind and the spiritual mind should cooperate, coordinate. He emphasized the importance of responding to life from love rather than fear, knowing that love-based choices accelerate karmic resolution, while fear-based choices create additional patterns to unravel. For each soul meets constantly itself, not alone in what is called at times karma or karmic influences. For remember, life is God. That which is constructive grows, that which is destructive deteriorates. Cayce also stressed the significance of forgiveness, not as a moral requirement, but as practical wisdom. Learn this lesson well, the spiritual truth. Criticize not unless you wish to be criticized, for with what measure ye meet it is measured to thee again. It may not be in the same way, but ye cannot even think bad of another without it affecting thee in a manner of destructive nature. Holding resentment, he explained, keeps souls bound to the very patterns they're trying to complete. Forgiveness liberates both the forgiver and the forgiven to move forward in their spiritual evolution. But this forgiveness must be genuine, arising from understanding rather than mere intellectual decision. For those recognizing these signs in their own lives, Cayce offered both congratulation and caution. Karmic completion, he warned, often brings temporary disorientation as the soul adjusts to new levels of consciousness. Old certainties may crumble before new understanding stabilizes. This transition period requires patience and trust in the process. He also emphasized that completing one set of karmic cycles doesn't mean the end of spiritual growth. Instead, it represents graduation to more advanced levels of soul development. The challenges don't disappear. They become more subtle and sophisticated as consciousness evolves. For each soul enters that it may make its path straight. They alone who walk the straight and narrow way may know themselves to be themselves, and yet one with the creative forces. Modern researchers studying consciousness transformation have found striking parallels to Cayce's observations. What he described as karmic completion aligns closely with what contemporary psychology calls post-conventional development, stages of human growth that transcend typical adult patterns and move toward what some call integral or transpersonal consciousness. But Cayce's contribution went beyond psychological theory. He provided a practical framework for recognizing and supporting these natural evolutionary processes rooted in direct psychic perception of individual souls' journeys across multiple lifetimes. His readings offer hope that no matter how stuck or repetitive our patterns might seem, completion and transformation are always possible. The thousands of documented cases in the Virginia Beach archives represent more than historical curiosity. They provide evidence that consciousness evolution follows recognizable patterns, and that what we call karma isn't punishment, but education, the soul's sophisticated system for learning and growing across multiple lifetimes. What emerges from studying these cases is a picture of existence far more purposeful and hope-filled than random suffering and meaningless struggle. Each challenge becomes an opportunity for growth, each relationship a chance for mutual healing, each lifetime a step toward greater wisdom and compassion. The readings consistently emphasized that we are not victims of cosmic forces beyond our control, but active participants in our own evolution. We and we alone are responsible for what we are and our condition in this earth. Yet this responsibility comes with the promise that every sincere effort toward growth and service is supported by infinite love and wisdom. As the reading stated, each entity, each soul, enters the material experience for purposes. These are not individual or of a selfish nature, though they are very personal in their application and their practice. Each soul meets constantly itself, not alone in what is called at times karma or karmic influences. For those walking this path of recognition, Cayce's final counsel was simple. Trust the process. Your soul knows exactly what it's doing, even when your mind feels confused or overwhelmed. The signs of karmic completion aren't achievements to be earned, but natural flowering that occurs when the time is right. The evidence suggests that humanity itself may be approaching a collective completion of certain karmic cycles. Many of the patterns Cayce described in individual readings are now manifesting on a global scale, suggesting that entire groups of souls are ready to graduate to new levels of consciousness and service. If you've recognized these patterns in your own life, you're witnessing something profound, the completion of lessons your soul has been learning across lifetimes. This recognition itself is a gift, an indication that your consciousness is ready to embrace new levels of growth and service. The journey continues, but at a higher octave with greater wisdom, deeper compassion, and more authentic expression of who you truly are. As Cayce often reminded those in his readings, you are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience, and that experience is leading you home to yourself. What signs of karmic completion might you be recognizing in your own life right now? The answer could change everything about how you understand your spiritual journey and your purpose in this remarkable time of human evolution. There comes a moment when your soul begins to whisper a truth you can no longer ignore. A deep, almost sacred feeling that this lifetime is not like the others, that something final is unfolding within you. You start to notice strange coincidences, an urge to let go of everything meaningless, and a silent knowing that you are being prepared for something greater, something eternal. According to Edgar Cayce, this isn't imagination. It's a sign that your spirit may be living its last reincarnation on Earth, and that realization is both terrifying and liberating. Because if this is your final human experience, every choice you make now determines whether your soul finally finds peace or must begin again. So let me ask you, have you ever felt that everything in your life, every pain, every joy, every loss, has been building toward one single purpose? That maybe you're not just learning anymore, but completing a cycle. Because in this video, you'll discover the 7 unmistakable signs that reveal when a soul is reaching its final journey. Watch closely, because once you recognize these signs, you'll never see your life the same way again. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, do you believe this could be your last reincarnation? I'll be reading every comment and leaving a heart on the ones that truly resonate. Every soul, according to Edgar Cayce, is on a journey of remembrance, a sacred return to its divine origin. Cayce taught that reincarnation is not a punishment, but a process of purification, where the soul learns through experience until it remembers that it was never truly separated from God. The signs that this may be your final reincarnation are not written in the stars or found in fortune tellers' words. They appear quietly within the chambers of your heart, in the way you perceive life, death, and eternity. They emerge as an inner maturity, a divine fatigue toward material illusions, and a hunger for spiritual truth that no earthly pleasure can satisfy. When a soul approaches the end of its cycle on earth, it no longer seeks recognition or wealth. It seeks peace, a peace that surpasses all understanding. Cayce said that souls nearing completion begin to see through the veil of appearances. They sense that the material world is only a classroom, and every person they meet, every challenge they face, is a mirror of their own evolution. This awareness doesn't come from study or intellect, but from pain transformed into wisdom. You begin to forgive easily, to let go quickly, to love without reason. You no longer argue to be right, you choose to be kind. And even when life wounds you deeply, something inside you whispers, "This too is God teaching me." That's the beginning of spiritual mastery, the sign that your soul has learned what it came here to learn. At this stage, you start to feel detached from things that once defined you, your name, your story, your desires. You watch them fade like old garments that no longer fit. It's not depression, it's transcendence. You're not losing interest in life, you're awakening to what's eternal within it. Cayce explained that such detachment is the soul's natural preparation for return, a recognition that real identity is spiritual, not physical. The ego begins to dissolve, and the soul stands naked before God, no longer afraid, no longer hiding. It's the same peace Christ spoke of when he said, "The kingdom of God is within you." But reaching that peace doesn't mean the end of challenges. In fact, the closer a soul gets to its final incarnation, the more intense its trials become. Because only fire can refine gold. Cayce warned that old karmic debts resurface near the end, not as punishment, but as final exams before graduation. These moments test whether love has truly replaced fear in your heart. You may lose people you love, face betrayal, illness, or solitude. But if you endure them with faith instead of bitterness, that's how your soul proves it's ready for liberation. When Edgar Cayce spoke of souls completing their earthly lessons, he emphasized one essential truth: divine love is the final test. You can study every spiritual book, meditate for hours, or travel to holy places, but until your heart becomes an instrument of unconditional love, your soul will remain bound to the cycle of return. The last incarnation isn't marked by external perfection, but by inner surrender. It's when you stop trying to control and begin to trust the unseen guidance of the Spirit. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" but rather, "What is this trying to teach me about love?" That subtle shift in consciousness is what separates an old soul from one still trapped in illusion. Cayce often said that those nearing their last incarnation develop a deep empathy for all living beings. You might find yourself feeling the pain of others as if it were your own. A child crying, a stranger's sorrow, or even the silent suffering of nature can bring tears to your eyes. That's not weakness, it's divine sensitivity. Your soul is remembering that all life is one. This compassion is not sentimental, it's transformative. It turns judgment into understanding and revenge into mercy. When this awareness blooms, your words heal, your presence calms, and your silence speaks of God's grace. At this point, material success loses its meaning. You no longer chase applause or validation because something eternal has awakened inside you. Cayce explained that such souls live in the world, but not of it. They fulfill their duties, love their families, and contribute to society, but their hearts are anchored in higher realities. They feel guided by invisible hands as if an unseen plan is unfolding through them. This divine surrender creates a peace no achievement could ever provide. And when you begin to live like this, miracles happen naturally. Doors open without effort, people appear at the perfect moment, and life begins to flow like a sacred river returning to its source. If you're hearing this, and something inside you feels an unexplainable recognition, a soft yes in your spirit, then maybe this message isn't random. Maybe your soul called it. Because those who are nearing completion are drawn to truth like moths to light. You feel it not as information, but as remembrance. And when that happens, it's time to live intentionally, to forgive completely, and to align your thoughts with love. Because every act of love in this lifetime shapes the eternity that follows. Before we continue, take a moment. If this message resonates with your heart, show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It helps this truth reach more souls who are awakening, just like you. And leave a comment below sharing what part of this message touched you most. Edgar Cayce taught that each reincarnation is like a classroom, and the earth itself is the greatest teacher of all. In your earlier lives, you learned through pain, ambition, and attachment. But in this final stage, your lessons come through surrender. You begin to sense that every trial is tailored for your evolution. You stop asking for life to be easier and start asking for strength to endure it with faith. When this shift occurs, even your suffering transforms. It no longer feels like punishment but purification. The soul, Cayce said, becomes radiant through endurance, like gold refined in fire. Every disappointment becomes a doorway, every heartbreak a sacred teacher, and every loss a preparation for divine reunion. One of the clearest signs that your reincarnation cycle is nearing its end is a profound reconciliation with your past. You begin to see that nothing was wasted, not even your mistakes. You understand that everything served a higher purpose, guiding you toward compassion and humility. This awareness doesn't come from effort. It arises naturally when the soul is mature enough to see from God's perspective. You no longer feel anger toward those who hurt you, because you recognize them as fellow travelers playing roles in your awakening. Cayce said that this capacity to bless your enemies and release resentment is one of the highest marks of spiritual advancement. Another sign is that your fear of death fades. You stop seeing death as an ending and begin to feel it as a homecoming. The veil between the physical and spiritual worlds grows thinner for you. You may sense presences, experience vivid dreams, or feel divine guidance as clearly as a conversation. Cayce explained that souls close to completion often have heightened sensitivity to the spiritual realm because their vibration is no longer tied to dense material energy. It's not imagination, it's attunement. You're tuning in to what your soul has always known, that life never truly ends. And with this realization comes another. You begin to live with deeper gratitude. You appreciate simple moments as sacred, a sunrise, a breeze, a quiet prayer. You understand that everything is alive with divine presence. This is not a fleeting mood, it's a new way of seeing. You stop rushing, stop comparing, and start listening, not just with your ears, but with your spirit. That's when life becomes prayer itself. Each breath, each heartbeat, each step becomes communion with God. Cayce described this as the return of the soul to conscious unity with its creator. It's not about escaping the world, but transforming it through love, one thought at a time. As this awareness deepens, something extraordinary begins to happen. You start to detach not from life itself, but from the illusions that once bound you. You realize that happiness doesn't come from what you own, but from what you give. Cayce often said that the soul grows through service, and those nearing their final incarnation feel an almost magnetic pull to help others. It's not for recognition, nor to earn virtue points. It's because compassion becomes your nature. You can no longer walk past pain without responding. You no longer see strangers, only reflections of yourself in different forms. You become an instrument of God's love, a quiet force of healing in a world that has forgotten how to love. At this stage, prayer transforms too. You stop praying for things and start praying for alignment. You ask less for outcomes and more for understanding. The more you pray, the more silence becomes your teacher. Cayce said that silence is the language of the soul, the space where the spirit communes with the Creator. Those who are living their last incarnation often crave solitude, not because they are lonely, but because they are listening. They withdraw from noise and drama because peace feels more natural than chaos. The soul, having wandered through centuries of human experience, finally rests in stillness, and in that stillness, it recognizes God's voice as its own. You also begin to feel time differently. You sense that everything is happening with divine precision. What used to frustrate you, delays, rejections, closed doors, now feels like protection. You trust more, worry less, and allow life to unfold instead of forcing it. This surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. Cayce taught that the soul in its final reincarnation lives in harmony with divine law. It doesn't resist, it flows. And in that flow, everything aligns effortlessly. People come into your life at the right moment. Opportunities appear when you need them, and you begin to live as if guided by invisible grace. And maybe the most mysterious sign of all is this. You feel homesick, but not for a place on earth. It's a longing no human love can fill, the deep, wordless yearning to return to God. You may have moments of beauty or success, but underneath them lies a quiet ache, a sacred nostalgia for the divine. Cayce called this the soul's memory of perfection, the inner reminder that your true home is not in this world. When that feeling becomes constant, when nothing in this realm can distract you from that call, it's because your spirit is preparing to return to where it truly belongs. In these final stages of spiritual maturity, your relationship with God transforms from belief to intimacy. You no longer see the divine as distant or external. You begin to feel God as the silent presence breathing within you, guiding every decision, comforting every sorrow, and turning every ordinary moment into something sacred. Cayce said that this inner communion marks the highest level of human evolution, when the soul no longer seeks God outside temples or scriptures, but finds him within the quiet chambers of the heart. You start to realize that your very existence is a prayer, your actions are worship, and your love is the continuation of his creation through you. This realization also changes how you see others. You no longer measure people by their actions, but by their potential. You see the divine spark even in those who seem lost or cruel. You stop labeling and start understanding. You stop condemning and start blessing. This is the love Jesus embodied, and Cayce described it as the soul's final graduation requirement. To look at darkness and still see light, that's what separates a returning soul from one still wandering. It's not about avoiding conflict or pretending to be holy. It's about choosing love when fear would be easier. It's about keeping faith when everything crumbles. And yet this level of consciousness doesn't make you perfect. It makes you real, deeply aware of your humanity, but equally aware of your divinity. You see both coexisting within you, just as they did in Christ, whom Cayce called the ultimate example of what humanity could become. The more you walk in that awareness, the more you live as he lived, forgiving without conditions, giving without expecting, and radiating peace even in chaos. That is the living proof that your soul has reached maturity. If you've reached this point of the video, it's no coincidence. Something in you resonates with this truth because it remembers. Maybe your soul has been through countless journeys, through pain, through love, through loss, all leading to this moment of awakening. And if these words stir something deep within you, that's your spirit recognizing its final calling, to live no longer in fear or separation, but in divine unity. If you feel this message speaking to your soul, support this work by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement helps spread these teachings to others who are searching for light in their darkness. Share your thoughts in the comments. I read them all and I'll heart the ones that come from the Spirit. As your soul approaches completion, life itself begins to simplify. You no longer chase what fades, and you no longer fear what comes. You begin to see that everything, joy and pain, beginning and end, has always been a single thread in God's tapestry. The people who once hurt you become your greatest teachers, and the moments that once broke you become sacred altars where your spirit was remade. This is not enlightenment in a dramatic sense, it's quiet, steady awareness that everything is divine, even what you once rejected. Cayce said that when a soul reaches this understanding, reincarnation becomes unnecessary. The soul has fully remembered its origin, and its only desire is to serve love in every form. That doesn't mean your human life becomes easy. On the contrary, many final incarnations are marked by deep solitude and misunderstanding. The world rarely recognizes a soul that has outgrown its games. You might feel invisible, unseen, or even strange to others, but that isolation is sacred. It's not punishment, it's preparation. God often hides his most awakened children in silence until the right moment. And when that moment comes, your very presence will heal more than your words ever could. You'll discover that the most powerful sermon is not spoken, it's lived. When the soul reaches this level of peace, even death loses its meaning. You begin to feel it not as an end, but as a transition into greater light. Cayce described death as the doorway between two classrooms. The lessons change, but the consciousness continues, and those who have completed their earthly course pass through that door without fear, because they know they are returning home. The light they've carried within their hearts becomes the very light that welcomes them. So if this message has touched you, remember this: the purpose of life was never to escape earth, but to sanctify it, to make every action a reflection of heaven. That's what Cayce meant when he said, The spirit returns to God when the soul has learned to manifest love perfectly in matter. That's the final sign. When everything you do, even the smallest act, is done in love, your journey is complete. Thank you for walking with me through this reflection. If this message awakened something within you, leave a comment below and share your thoughts. I'll heart each one that comes from a sincere place. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and like this video so that these words can reach others who are ready to awaken to God's truth. Remember, the soul never ends, it only evolves. And one day, you too will realize that this was your final lesson before eternity began.